Grade schoolers aren't exactly known for their respectful behavior. In fact, it might often seem like their whole purpose in life is to ruffle your feathers. Kids this age love to test boundaries. But teaching kids respect is so important because it lays a foundation for all the other qualities we want to see in them, including kindness, honesty, integrity, and even empathy. Respect can seem like an abstract concept to children, but there are ways to teach them this concept in a way that they'll understand. I'm Marisa from Call to Mothering, and I encourage and equip moms who are raising toddlers to teens. The first and most important way to teach respect to a child is to model it. The best way to teach respect is to show respect. Kids absorb so much of what we teach through our actions. I've definitely learned this the hard way. I realized that some of the disrespectful behaviors that I was witnessing from my kids were, in a way, a reflection of how I address them as a parent. Having an "I'll show you respect" attitude through anger, yelling, and negativity is not going to inspire a child to be respectful and compassionate. If we want to explain respect to a child, we also have to understand what we are conveying through our interactions with others. I've been convicted many times of how I've spoken about other people while my kids were in earshot. Not that I should be speaking negatively about others in general, but I especially want to be aware of how my kids are internalizing my opinions that are spoken out loud. Am I encouraging and affirming? Am I sarcastic and dismissive of others' feelings? The truth is, when we are intentional in our parenting, we can keep the end goal in mind, which is respectful behavior from our kids. Modeling respectful behavior in the way that we interact with both our kids and others is the most important way to teach respect. Another great way is to teach polite communication. If your child demands something from you in a harsh tone or uses inappropriate language, explain how that makes you feel and suggest a more polite way for them to communicate. But also keep in mind that they need to have their feelings validated. You want to validate the big feelings behind the rudeness, because when a young child is experiencing a strong negative emotion, it's hard for them to control their words and their actions. Validating their feelings while also setting limits on appropriate language teaches respect and avoids further shame. When your son demands, "Give me a glass of milk, Mom," you can say something like, "Whoa there, you forgot something. How do we ask for something that we want?" This takes a lot of practice, but it's important not to give in to that demanding behavior. The same goes for thank yous. If your child is impolite to a grown-up, it's okay to prompt them in an encouraging tone. Something like, "Now, Tommy, how nice was that? What do we say to Mrs. Scott?" This is the positive alternative to, "Tommy, that was so rude of you. Say thank you." Another tip for teaching respect is to let your child feel heard. I know that life would be so much easier if our kids always happily obeyed our every request, but that's not realistic. Try to remember that when your kid won't always do what you ask, they aren't necessarily trying to be respectful. They may just have a different opinion. When you're a kid, you have very little control over your own life, and that's hard. So kids will often try to take control where they can, and that might look like disobeying you when you ask them to do something. Maybe it's bedtime and your kid doesn't want to go to sleep. Maybe you need them to help clear the table after dinner, or maybe they need to do their homework and they really don't feel like it. The key here is allowing your kid to disagree with you within reason. Give your child a chance to explain why they feel frustrated with what you've asked them to do, and truly hear him out. You might be able to come to an agreement that works for both of you. For example, you could delay bedtime by about 10 minutes so your kid can finish the game that he's playing. Or he could pick a different after-dinner chore, like putting away the leftovers instead of cleaning the table. But even if you can't compromise this time, because the homework is due tomorrow, so it has to get done tonight, you've given your child the space to express himself and feel heard, which is a key part of respect. It's also important to set loving boundaries. One of the best ways to model respect is to show kindness while still holding firm to your boundaries or limits. So if your kid throws a fit in the clothing store and none of your coping tactics work, what do you do? If the shopping can be postponed, tell her matter-of-factly, "We're going to leave now and come back to the store another time when you're feeling more calm." If the errand has to get done then, walk a few feet away from your child after telling her, "I'll be right over here where you can see me. Let me know when you're feeling calmer, and then we can finish our shopping." If the meltdown continues, you can always lead your child out to the car where she can collect herself in private. You can also talk it over later. Sometimes the best way to handle disrespect is to discuss it with your child at a later time when you've both had a chance to cool off. Start by validating their feelings, like, "I could tell you were really upset earlier." Then get the conversation going by asking these questions. Why do you think you were upset? What ideas do you have to solve the problem? And what would be a more respectful way to tell me how you're feeling? These can be key teachable moments that provide an opportunity for problem solving together. Plus, working together in an exchange of ideas is likely to have a greater impact than lecturing or just imposing consequences. Finally, praise their respectful behavior. Positive reinforcement can work wonders for influencing a child's behavior. That's why it's important to notice and celebrate your child's impromptu displays of politeness as much as possible. Make your praise specific by describing the behavior in detail and why you were pleased with it, instead of the generic "good job" or "I'm proud of you." For example, you could say, "Thank you for saying please when you asked for a snack," or "Thank you for asking permission before you borrowed the scissors from my desk." Be specific, and your child will quickly learn that his efforts are worthwhile and also appreciated. Obviously, we have our work cut out for us, as respect can sometimes be hard to define and also understand, especially for little kids who tend to live by their emotions rather than logic. But by following these basic principles, we can set the stage for our children's long-term happiness, success, and overall well-being, especially when it comes to relationships. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, you are not just a mom.